All right, and we are live. Thank you so much for joining us for another round of Founder Stories brought to you by Relay Commerce. Today we are joined by Jen and Eliot from Gigawatt Coffee. Thank you so much for joining, guys.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Fantastic to be here.
We're thrilled to have you. I'm excited to get into kind of the inner workings of what Gigawatt is up to today. But could you give us a little bit of a background on how you guys got started?
So it's kind of interesting. We launched right as COVID hit, actually 2 weeks before. As they say in business, timing is everything. We had bought a roaster and we're looking for storefronts. All of a sudden, for some reason, I don't know why, they canceled all of our appointments. It was kind of a blessing in disguise. We, had this roaster, said, what are we going to do? Crumpled up our original business plan of doing a cafe and said, we can do farmers markets. They're open and available through the roaster in a spare bedroom. Ran production for the year. We thought we'd do one or two. It'd be kind of cute and quaint. By the end of the first year, we were doing 7 farmers markets. And we quickly realized that we enjoyed being a mobile events coffee company, as well as the selling of coffee, online and everything. And so we ended up really leaning into that. By the end of the first year, we moved into a warehouse space, upgraded our roasting equipment, and really hit the ground running as far as what our current iteration of our business is, which is now we do up to 250 to 300 live events per year between farmers markets, pop-ups, craft fairs, all types of different things. And then we also sell online 24/7, 365, and have wholesale as well. So that's kind of the evolution of our company. So
2 weeks before COVID. That's impressive. Way to adapt, guys. That is no easy feat. Way to just take a step change and pivot with it. I'm going to take it a step back before we even get into that. How did you both meet?
Well, that's an interesting question. We met at work.
Okay.
We were both private investigators, and the rest of it is history. So
This
it's kind
is
of
getting
funny.
more and more interesting, guys. The private investigators, this is exciting now.
So we worked for a small company in 2 different working groups. Part of the reason I got into coffee is I traveled all over the country doing high-end asbestos litigation. And, in my downtime, I'd do 2 things. I'd hit breweries, I'd hit coffee shops. I quickly realized most breweries, you could get a decent glass of beer. Whereas a lot of coffee shops, I was really underwhelmed by the cup of coffee I was getting. And I said, and I'd buy it back for $20 plus sometimes, a lot of the time. And Jen would hide it in the pantry for the weekends. And I'm like, I need good coffee Monday through Friday. I can do this cheaper and better. So when I was looking for a different, I guess to branch out and leave my current company, originally I was going to start my own PI agency. And Jen goes to me, 2 years from now, are you going to be happy? I said, no, we'll have more money, but probably be. I'd never loved what I did, and she goes, look, I don't want a miserable husband. I want somebody who loves what they're doing. And she goes, what do you want to do? And I'm like, roast coffee. And she looked at me like I was nuts. And 6 months later, we launched Gigawatt.
That's remarkable. Talk about a supporting wife, Jen. The gold standard.
I
Well,
mean, do I want to deal with an unhappy husband, right? So
Sure.
he when he said roast coffee, I was a little surprised, but I just said, okay, find a commercial roaster, let's figure this out, and that was that.
Amazing. Okay.
well, and the funny thing is, actually, we had worked one case together. And we agreed that if we wanted our relationship to work, we should never work another job together again. And when she goes, I want to be your business partner. This thing will work better if I'm in it too. And it took a couple days to think it over, but it was probably one of the best decisions of my life I've ever made. She's a rock star and really the engine behind Gigawatt that makes things run.
Remarkable. So, okay, walk me through it. Jen, you mentioned, right? You said, okay, let's go find a commercial roaster, right? Where did we actually start? How did we like go about that process? Did you already have some in mind? Like, what did that look like?
Well, so we did, obviously we're investigators. We researched. I talked with a lot of different coffee roasters about equipment, operations, a lot of people in the Chicagoland area, a few, all over the United States, really to try to get a beat of what works for people. And I wish I had listened actually to the guys at Sputnik Coffee here in Chicago when they said, get a bigger roaster or you'll regret it. Because we bought a 3 pound roaster, and within I think about 2 to 3 months we had quickly outstripped the capacity of that. So, but it was just an opportunity to learn from it, upscale, and we ended up upgrading to 10 pound. Now we run three different roasters, two 10 pounders and an 18 pound roaster. In particular, we love air roasting coffee. I drum roasting coffee is contact heat. The outside of the bean burns. It leaves a little bit more of a bitter taste as far as that. You really catch that roast in the coffee. Where air roasting is a lot cleaner, lower acidity. You get more nuance from the bean because it's like a big popcorn machine, just forced out air through a chamber. So it really makes a better flavored cup of coffee, in my opinion. So that's the equipment that we ran.
You brought up an interesting point, right? You wish you had listened to a couple people who said you should get a bigger roaster, right? And within 2 to 3 months, you were outpacing essentially what you had already anticipated. Was there a specific point or event that happened along the journey where you knew like, oh wait, we're onto something here. This is actually picking up ground pretty quickly.
Well,
I think it was, go ahead.
no, go on, Jen.
No, I was just going to say, I think it was pretty immediate. I think after our first farmers market, the thing with live events is you get to really do market research, pun intended, and see how people are reacting to your product and adjust. And as soon as we realized and were able to do that, we were able to create something that people really latched onto. So that's why we grew from one market to about 7 markets weekly that first season. And that's when knew we were onto something, especially as Eli was saying, when we started outstripping our capacity so quickly. We realized we needed to get out of the spare bedroom in our house with the roastery. We were worried about our floor joists with the coffee sacks just piled in that room, and then look for an actual space to house our roastery in.
Amazing. So Eliot, you're not sitting in the living room right now with the coffee stacks.
No, I'm actually in one of our bean storage rooms.
Very cool.
It's kind of the quiet place in our roastery when operations are.
Very cool. So it sounds like the farmers markets were actually quite a blessing in disguise in terms of getting feedback fast. Where was farmers markets, or I guess event, like some sort of event strategy, a part of that initial, go to market plan that you had before COVID hit?
It definitely wasn't part of the initial plan. So our initial plan consisted of selling to small business offices like the one that we came from, and in the corporate environments, and perhaps even having a small cafe. But appointments started getting canceled, everything was closed, and like you mentioned, it really was a blessing in disguise to not go in on a bricks and mortar. And we quickly realized the benefits of doing in-person events. So especially after that first season, we changed our strategy. And that's one of the things that I think differentiates us is a lot of coffee companies that do event-based channels are all either mobile coffee carts or beverage-based. But one thing that we do is, despite offering samples and also offering beverage at the events, we really focus on the beans because we want everybody to take a bag of beans home and brew it throughout the week.
Amazing. and brilliant strategy at the end of the day, because then they get a little bit more familiar with it, and it's like part of I feel like it's a labor of love a little bit, right? I think when
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And not only that, but it became a larger part of our strategy as well. Right now, we do about 250 or so annual events every year that consist of weekly recurring farmers market events, also independent events, craft fairs, festivals, different events at breweries, just all a smattering of different things. But we're able to take the people from those events and convert them into our online customers. So that's a really nice pipeline that we've developed, a funnel, to be able to grow our business online and create that customer LTV.
Excellent. And that was kind of my next question, right? I think in terms of, I have a good understanding of how we came to be, but what's our current focus right now? What are we moving more towards ecom, or is that, what's on the radar for 2026?
Well, ecom is a huge part of our business. So we have essentially three channels. We have ecom, our in-person events, and wholesale as well. We are expanding our wholesale, but the thing that we are focused on right now kind of has a deadline because we are expecting baby number 2 at the end of July.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. So everything is, in terms of our goal setting planning, is wrapped around that deadline. Right now, we're focused on building SOPs, on being able to really systematize recurring tasks to be able to delegate and make sure that Gigawatt is going to keep pace and keep growing while we take a little bit of leave. So we're not going to be absent from the business, but Eli runs the front end and I run the back end, and we're just making sure that everything's going to keep on working. So I think that that's where we're really focused on right now. Me particularly garnering more organic traffic to the website through different strategies, whether that's SEO, blogging, PR media outreach, a bunch of different things that I'm working on. And Eli managing, the leadership, the hiring, the events, just everything on that.
Beautiful. On the note of SEO and just organic traffic, tell me a little bit more about the brand itself. How did we come across Gigawatt? Your branding is absolutely beautiful. I love the way the site looks. And honestly, let's open this now.
Fantastic.
Right.
In terms of Eli, you want to tell the story of how we came up with the name?
So it's funny. Actually, probably the hardest part of starting this business was coming up with the name. A good name that wasn't taken is actually pretty hard to come by. And it took us about 2 months of throwing out names left and right, a couple a day even. And, we'd shoot the bad ones down, go online, check a good one. Oh no, that one's taken by some coffee company in London or something like that. So, it was really hard until we, I think I said to Jen, I go, if this thing hits, we're going to chew through some gigawatts because we use an electric roaster. And a light bulb went on, so to speak.
Oh, I love a good pun. That was excellent.
But the funny thing is that I texted one of my buddies who I was throwing some of the finalist names out, and all he texted me back is "Great Scott," and I was like, yep. The Back to the Future reference, didn't even see it. So yeah,
that's how we came up with the name. But in terms of the branding, it's got an interesting story in itself as well. So this happened right as COVID hit, right? So I had a little bit of time off of work, not too much, but a little bit. And I didn't know anything about design, anything about logos, branding, just any of it. But I was hell-bent on doing this myself because I really wanted to be proud of the final product and learn as well. So I started working with Adobe and I was very limited in my design capabilities. I knew how to work with text and color. So as you can see through a lot of our bags, and this is a second or third iteration of our bag labels, but we use a lot of text and color blocking. And we found that by accident or by design was able to capture a lot of the market because people walk by our booth, they're very attracted to the bags. They're able to identify which coffees that they like by the color. So sometimes, even though people know the names of our coffees, they sometimes come up to us and they say, oh yeah, I like the blue one, or I like the orange one, reference our Kite and Key blend or our Luminosity blend. And it's very easy for them to be able to do that and remember what they like. So we've kind of gone with the color blocking and haven't made any crazy designs or anything too artistic because it's what our market responds to and what we see that works.
I mean, simplicity is key there, right? And I think as long as people are recognizing it, even your names are so clever and something like that I think would really stick because you said Luminosity and Kite and Key. Those are the two that I know as well. You know what I mean? And I think it's just it all comes together in such a cohesive way. So it seems like you guys have really taken a very intentional route. So kudos. It sounds like also a lot of learning along the way. I commend you guys for, stretching outside of comfort zones and really just landing in a really solid place. Curious though, I always have to ask this question. What are some of the biggest, I would love to know both wins, but also what are some of the biggest like losses or lessons learned along the way that maybe that kind of changed the way you perceive going forward?
Well, that's a very big and broad question. I'll
Fair.
put it on a, how about I put on a time, how about Eli can respond after I do, but I'll put on a timeline for this last year as an example. So I would say the biggest win for us this previous year was going all in on AI, the hot trending topic. We took an intensive course last October and really realized how most small businesses are using AI as a chat GPT or searching something on Google, as a Google or fixing up an email. But one thing that we've done is we've really learned how to use LLMs and create systems in order to be able to operate as a large team, despite the fact that we're just a small 2-person leadership team with a part-time executive assistant. So we've that was one of our biggest wins because it's making the goals possible of expecting another baby and being able to step away while creating the systems in place to let everything keep growing. So I would say that that's one of our biggest wins. And then one of our biggest losses, I would say,
Before we
would
get
be,
into Jen, if I
sure.
could double click really quick. Essentially, so what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you are leveraging AI to truly automate a lot of your business workflows while you plan to take some time.
Correct. So automate to an extent, right? So we don't have anything fully automated. Automated. There's always a human in the loop for review, but correct. We are creating different projects and skills and tools in order to be able to manage everything and give everyone an amazing experience. As we're growing, our customer service tickets are growing as well. And we were able to design a system that is aware of all of the information about our brand, our voice, our tone, guidelines, our trained on all of our previous customer messages that have come in through so many years. And that allows us to create automatic drafts to customer service messages, and then we can review those with a human in the loop. It's just a matter of making it a little more efficient so that we can, like I said, operate as a large team despite being a small team.
Remarkable. Thank you for that example. I was going to ask.
I have plenty.
I would love to also hear perhaps one of the, lesser wins, more so maybe something we could consider a loss that we learned from in the last, year.
Well, I would say, I think particularly the economics of business. As far as supply chain issues, I really think since the beginning of COVID, everything that I think everybody had as a perception of how things operate has been flipped on its head. And we're all playing a game where we don't really know the rules in. For instance, green coffee and tariffs. This is something that came out of left field. We anticipated a little bit and were able to pre-book a lot of coffee ahead of time and make sure that we weren't necessarily caught flat-footed buying coffee on the open market at spot, paying those high tariff rates. But there came to be a point when coffee wasn't coming in from Brazil at all because there was a 50% tariff on it. And, it got down to the point where we were nail biting, we can have beans because all of the regular suppliers just dried up. And, fortunately we had pre-bought enough in advance. But I think one of the things that really has, we've learned over the past year, or really past 5-6 years of operation, has been you can get caught flat-footed if you're not prepared. And it's really made us, I guess, we were vigilant before. It's made us twice as vigilant now to make sure that we're prepared for any upcoming storms that may be over the horizon that we don't even see.
Yeah, you're definitely not alone there. I think it's kind of a consistent, to your point, we're all playing a game that, no one no longer knows the rules to. That resonates. I think it's well, both great answers to, as you said, Jen, a rather broad question. I'm going to step change a little bit and talk through like looking into the future and more like where are we drawing inspiration from today, right? Are there, maybe it's another merchant, maybe it's something outside of your category. Yeah, who's running a good campaign in your opinion?
So the campaigns that I'm looking at currently are from a company called The Uncommon Business, led by Kellen Faulkner. And we were part of her group. I'm currently part of her advanced AI coaching group called Uncommon Leaders. But she just had one of the biggest launches of her business this previous week. And I was really looking at her content to ads engine, and I think it's just killed it. So we don't run paid ads right now, but when we are going to be going down that road, I'm definitely going to be studying her and seeing what she's been doing to see if we can replicate that and get some results as well.
Beautiful. Going back to the paid ad route, I imagine you're likely considering, and you mentioned a couple items around building SEO, organic traffic, right? You might be considering just the different types of customer profiles you bring to the site. How are you approaching that as a whole?
So I would say currently, so we're not running paid ads currently. We don't. We've ran just a handful of ads in the past for Black Friday or the holidays or things like that, but nothing of any scale. So I haven't really looked into a strategy of differentiating or trying to gain organic content by our products. Right now, what I'm trying to do is raise the domain authority of our website in order to get a little higher on the SERPs as well. So creating more evergreen and educational content through our blogs around air roasted coffee, because there's a big gap in that marketplace for that. And I think once we kind of set out to get some more of that plan accomplished, we're going to be looking at the paid ads.
Excellent. And I think that the way in which we've been introduced is really through the concept of subscriptions and recurring, right? Coffee is one of those things that you can naturally weave into a routine. How are you approaching subscriptions as a whole?
Well, with Smartrr Lifecycle, of course, I have to say that.
I appreciate
So So we signed up with Smartrr, and we haven't been with any other subscription platform, and we can't be happier with it. But really, what we do is what Smartrr Lifecycle is allowing us to do is to really automate the the how can I say this? Really focus on that pipeline from the in-person sale at the events to that first time that the customer orders online, and then through the subscription converter, have it be an automated process to suggest the subscriptions and then have the checkout with the magic link with the pre-filled one cart checkout, one click checkout. So that's how we're approaching it. We constantly tell people about our subscriptions at the events, and we make them really well known and on our website and easy to navigate. So like I said, we don't have paid ads, so we're not pushing them that way. We're just telling people organically and then through email marketing as they're funneling in from our live events.
Excellent. On the note of just subscriptions, right? Is there any additional perks to subscribing or, subscribe and save? What else?
Oh, we have the subscribe and save. People can pause, cancel, skip anytime. And, they're able to go into a very user-friendly customer portal that they can manage your subscription from there. So we've had great feedback from our customers about it.
Good. I'm happy to hear that. Beautiful. I think in terms of, like I said, go forward strategy, perhaps is there any specific goal that you're working towards, whether that's subscriptions or just general, growth goals that you're working towards for this year?
I would say,
Yep.
the growth of subscriptions is obviously super important because that reoccurring revenue, and also the customer loyalty that it builds. You know, when people fall into the routine of drinking that same great cup of coffee in the morning is something that we want to continue to build on. But also, we see a lot of potential for the growth on the wholesale side of things that is really untapped. I mean, we're in the major market of the Chicagoland area, and although there's a lot of competitors out there, I feel that we have a price point and quality of product that really is next to none. And our cans are really an untapped market. The ready to drink beverage market is only growing, and we offer something particularly unique, a black can of coffee, just coffee, just water, not the candy bar in a can that so many people are used to. So it really gives us, we're uniquely positioned to have an opportunity to capture a lot more of the market out there that we're currently capturing.
I'm a big fan of the can. It's genuine, like you said. It's a cold cup of coffee, and it's not anything over the top. Also, I've had many of these before, and usually there's like some sort of acidity that comes with it. That's not happening right now. I don't know how you do it. I was like, how did they do it? Beautiful. Is there anything else that we may want to address before jumping off?
No, I think, I think the big goal for us in terms of, when you were asking about that, is for me to make the train optional next year. And what that means is I currently have a day job, and I've had this day job since the beginning. So it's been a lot, but I'm very grateful for all the security and the benefits and everything it's provided for our family. My heart lies in entrepreneurship. And as we watch Gigawatt grow, we are building the foundation and putting brick by brick in order to make sure that I don't have to go on the train anymore every day. Mm-hmm. So that's something that we're trying to do by this time next year. So a lot of our growth is centered around that.
I love that. Cheers to that. Absolutely. Yeah, riding the train, it really is a grind, I gotta say. How long is your commute?
It's not bad, and that's when I get a lot of my work done for Gigawatt, so it works out.
Fair enough, but that is a great goal to have. And honestly, the way in which you've approached everything has really been remarkable. Like I said, you dove in headfirst, and from what it seems like, stretched your comfort zones to outstanding levels. And I'm impressed with the product and the brand. You guys are killing it. I'm a forever fan at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us as it relates to the founder stories. And like I said, rooting for you.
Thanks so much, Shannon.